So I thought I'd just share some of my early life experiences with you, see if it resonates with anyone. Uh, just to kind of give you a bit of my backstory. So I was born in Chicago in the early '80s, with a English mother and American father. Um, at an early age, pre-verbally, I was left, not left, uh, not not consciously, or let's say not willingly, left with my father. My father wouldn't allow my mother to take me back to England with her. So from the get go, we've got the abandonment wound. Throughout my life, throughout my early years, I moved backwards and forwards from America to England, leaving everything I knew for something new, and then going back and forth, and just capitalizing on this core wound that I've discovered, and really learned to live with, and I'm still learning to live with, and figuring out how that affects my relationships, my attachment style, and all the rest of that. My father was a beautiful man, very, very hardworking fella, Marine, Roman Catholic, from a big family. He was the youngest of all of his siblings. He went through the ringer himself, and I've got a lot of forgiveness for him. Unfortunately, he didn't know how to process his own emotions, and a lot of that came out through anger. I was mentally and physically abused from an early age. And, at one point I kind of took that into the victim mode, and, I still go into that mode. We all do at some points here and there, right? But now what I do is I look at it as actually it's built me to be the character that I am, taught me how I don't want to be with myself and with anybody else. So, there's every cloud's got its silver lining. My mother is a beautiful woman. I love her so, so much. We've got a great relationship. I've had to work through some anger and other emotions with regards to her decisions in life. The beauty is that I can see the beauty in her decisions, and that she was just trying to make it work the best way that she could and survive herself. The key word being surviving. My mom's from Bradford, very salt of the earth place, council house, get into the nitty gritty of what life is, and she's one hell of a strong woman that I can give utmost gratitude and credit for bringing me into this world. On the other side, my dad was a Marine and a Roman Catholic, from a Roman Catholic family. Both sides are Roman Catholic, so yeah, I'm a recovering Catholic. My dad came from military background. I don't even know how far back that goes in the history of the family, so you can imagine just what kind of torment the family's had through seeing what they've seen and being part of a machine. It's quite eye-opening when I start to look beyond blaming my parents or anybody else, because how far back does it go? So yeah, that was my early kind of years, and then coming into teenage years, my mom moved to England and allowed me to have the decision whether or not I wanted to stay with my dad or move with my mother. This was quite a monumental part of life. Teenage years, the main thing is stability for our kids, and to continue to give them the support that they need, and yeah, just giving them the environment to grow and flourish. my mom was trying to do what was best for me, but left me with a father who his main objectives in life were working to survive and yeah, just continuing to work. He really focused and was an achiever. Beautiful thing, built the house I grew up in, plumber, all of that. Unfortunately, he wasn't really taught how to deal with his emotions, as most men tend to have these days. It still goes on, but we're not taught it's safe to expel those emotions. So then I was put in a situation where I wasn't able to express my emotions or my needs, or even taught what my needs were. It was probably really frustrating for my father because he was very goal driven and very much into you get a trade, you learn that trade, and you survive on that trade. And then he had me, an artistic son with ADHD. So when I look at it that way, I can laugh about it, think, oh yeah, no wonder why he was pulling his hair out, and I can appreciate the frustration of it. And unfortunately, he didn't know how to deal with it, and the repercussions came back onto myself. I had to really handle a lot of anger, discipline, the unhealthy authoritarian in my life. It was difficult. It was really difficult. It was a challenge, and all I wanted was my mom. So I moved back over to England when I was 16. By that point, I had already started experimenting with drugs. Anything to numb. Not even realizing that that's what I was doing, obviously. But they made me feel good at the time. I'm sure they still make me feel good now if I went there, but that's only a temporary solution. But yeah, so moved back to the UK, tried to get on with living there. Culture shock hit. Shops closing at 4 o'clock, and just everything was so different, and ended up moving back to America with my dad because he wanted me to get a better education. I didn't really sit in the education system with my neurodivergency. He got frustrated. I had, that by this point it started experimenting with harder drugs. He got me actually diagnosed for ADHD. Had my diagnosis, wasn't supervised, started abusing the Ritalin because it made me feel normal, and why wouldn't I do that? And then from there I went into even harder drugs like using cocaine and going to raves and ecstasy, which was beautiful. It gave me that feeling of love that I'd always wanted, but it's not sustainable. And my dad got really frustrated at this point. I basically had gotten thrown out. My dad got to a point of not wanting to deal with my shit anymore, didn't know how to deal with it, didn't know which route to go down. So him and his and my stepmother decided that I needed to learn the hard way. And most people would probably sit and go, oh, how dare they, whatever. But I'm actually quite grateful that they did that for me, because it in all rights taught me how to survive and live on my own back and not be so entitled, or thinking that I'm entitled to everything and to be given everything, because we all are to some degree, not all of us, but those that have the joy of having parents that can give us everything that we want. We expect a bit more than others to some degree. So yeah, just really went through the ringer, man. When I look at my youth, and it's made me realize, well, yeah, no wonder why I reach for drugs and use drugs to numb out all those emotions that I've been feeling. I recently went for a walk, and on that walk I had that realization, like, oh yeah, man, I was just numbing out, and I'm still numbing out to some degrees. You know, I use coping mechanisms, food, you know, sexual activity, cigarettes, that keeps going in this loop. So it's something that's there. There's a pattern that's there that comes up when I don't feel safe to express the emotions. But I'm thankful and really grateful that now I can actually start to explore these emotions, whether that's dipping my toe in or, you know, going into a full-on breathwork session and letting them out. It's beautiful that I have the opportunity and the access to modalities of healing that allow me to go as deep or as shallow as I want to go. So I just really wanted to share a little bit about the beginning of my life, you know, the traumas that I've been through, the experiences that I've had that have kind of brought me up to the point in my life where addiction kind of really hit in, because I've hit into where my addiction is at, where it was at, but I didn't lead into where it came from. Not to mention that, you know, both sides of my family, both parents, probably grandparents, who knows, it probably goes to great grandparents and beyond, were, you know, addicts and addicted, like most of us are, you know. So that just upped my chances of being an addict even further. But the acceptance of that is where the true growth has become from, you know. And at the end of the day, every single person that you'll ever meet is an addict. They just don't know it yet, or they haven't, you know, come to the awareness that, you know, shopping loads, or going for a pint, or watching pornography, or the list goes on and on and on. So I just really wanted to kind of shout out and just be a bit more vulnerable about my upbringing in life, and just share, because I hope it resonates with somebody, and people can go, oh, fucking hell, I'm not alone, you know. And to just be real and honest, a couple of years ago I would have never, even just going online to show my face was probably one of the most scariest things I could imagine, and being in the public eye, and it still is scary to this point. But I know that this isn't about me. I know the story is about me, but the whole thing is not about me. It's about us as humanity. And, you know, even if it touches one person's life, that's one more life that I've been able to touch and allowed to allow them to see that actually you're not alone. You're never alone. Even in your loneliest of moments, there's always somebody that's there going through the same thing, or somebody that you can pick up the phone and reach to. So just wanted to leave that there, and just remember that you're loved. Even if I haven't met you, I love you, because we all deserve it. All right, catch you later.